and let's welcome Skarzig onto the desk. Woo! What are your thoughts? Two North American players making it into top 8.
I mean, after casting on the EU scene for so long, I've seen a lot of what these players have to offer, but I mean, NA's just got that power. We've seen these players bring not only the tried and true meta decks, but they have that slight edge of a little bit of anti-meta technology to give themselves an edge. And Swim, we're back at it again.
Welcome back, Skarzig.
Extremely close games have been the theme of the day, and I'm here for it. That's what we want. We don't want these one-sided blowouts. We don't want the matchups to be super lopsided. The meta is, as you said, extremely balanced. There's only like a lot, just very thin margins around, are you top decking correctly? How many reads? We've been seeing so many bluffs and so many mind games, and players are actually calling each other out here. Do you have the sharp sight? Do you have that Ranger's Resolve? I'm going to leave your Zoe Nami unbanned, and I don't think you know how to play the deck correctly. It's getting pretty hype.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, in a mid-range meta like this, we're just going to see so much expression of skill. Like, there's so many decision points on most turns on both players' side. And there's so many different things that they're considering when they're taking all of these options. You can tell just by looking at them.
I mean, especially when you know that it is open deck list as well, you know exactly what you could be going up against. So it's definitely a lot of micro decisions happening here, but let's talk about our next match. We are going back over to Group B. It's Aikado versus HowToDie. Aikado already, as Amazonian called out, Aikado has solidified their spot moving forward into the final day for our top 8 bracket. But HowToDie right now, really looking to get a win on board, sitting at a 0-2 scoreline right now. So I think there's still a lot to play for here. Obviously, Aikado could just get the 3-0. So both North American players could just go undefeated in their groups. So I think that's really exciting to look forward to. And Skarzig, I'm going to let you take over.
I mean, when we look at both of these players, right, HowToDie has brought a very innovative lineup. He's I think, probably the biggest underdog right now out of groups A and B, and we've seen the technology come through. It's provided a lot of potential for these games to, like, have some really explosive outcomes to snowball in his favor, and it just has not come through. Now that we're getting to the next game, I'm hoping, you shuffle those cards and try again. I really want HowToDie's lists to start popping off here.
Yeah, I mean, HowToDie with the, of course, Shen Jarvan, which is kind of like an old school deck, right? It's been a meta monster for so long, but for the last several months has been pretty removed from it. But he's bringing it back, he's making it work, and I'm sure that if it's basically able to, hit the right matchups, it can definitely find some redemption. And of course, we've got his TF Gangplank deck that has the one of Mirai Great Mother that we saw earlier, a really spicy inclusion, and I'm hoping to see it pay off.
Yeah, we're going to get a closer look at the decks and the players today. Aikado, again, coming from NA, already solidified his spot for the top 8 and is looking to just take a little bit of a victory lap. I think that Aikado is a strong enough player where you aren't going to sit on your laurels, right? You want to keep going. You want to solidify the reputation. Getting 3-0 out of your groups, you have maybe perhaps a little bit of an intimidation factor going into day 3.
Absolutely, and I mean he's representing North America. I know he's watching these games, and I know he just saw, what am I taking it down 3-0, and he sees that as a challenge. I'm sure he's going to be looking to go undefeated here as well.
And of course, favorite champion Ezreal, very just loyal player to the Ezreal Draven, just a tried and true solid deck. And comparing that to HowToDie, opting for the Caitlyn, right? When you compare Ezreal Draven to Ezreal Caitlyn, this deck is going to be trying to be a bit more aggressive in that potential mirror match because you have, essentially another set of Dravens, a 3-mana, 3/3 quick attacker that can get on board and start forcing your advantage perhaps a little bit. I am once again looking forward to the Jarvan Shen. I think that this is the wild card of Group B right now, this specific deck.
Yeah, completely agree. I think that Draven we're seeing kind of like one of the scariest decks in the metagame, and we see a lot of players have been banning it out. I suspect we might see a double Draven ban coming into this set as well. But we can take a closer look at the Twisted Fate Gangplank list, but most players have elected for a Twisted Fate Swain in this tournament. Tiff Gangplank being a little bit more aggressive, and take a look at some of the deck building choices here. One of Morai Great Mother, one of Captain Thrawn, one of Riptide Warax, and one of the Dreadway. That's a spicy list.
You've got a lot of top end, a lot of different options once you get to the late game, and with a setup like this, maybe you don't feel as bad if something gets hit by Aloof Travelers and discarded, and we really want, or at least HowToDie was definitely really wanting to hit a grindier value-based matchup and let this Morai Great Mother come through. You have Zap Sprayfin that could potentially tutor those spells out of the deck. There is one Culling Strike in the deck as well, which we saw pop off really hard in that previous set, but the points at which this is going to hit something consistently is very low. But you can see that HowToDie is really approaching this region combination from an incredibly flexible, toolboxy style.
Exactly. I mean, overall, I gotta say, Aikado, very strong player, very, very strong lineup, and as mentioned, HowToDie, a little bit of an underdog, but looking lineup to lineup, I actually might think that he's a little bit favored here. Now, it's, as we mentioned, the most skill-based meta we've ever seen. Lineups are not really going to be auto-winning or auto-losing, but the Shen Jarvan is actually looking kind of hot into Aikado's lineup. It's going to do a really good job at kind of like cleaning up and outvaluing the Lulu Poppy deck, and it actually has enough disruption to be able to take games off of Zoe Nami as well. And we see the bans come in. The double
Shen Jarvan
ban
is open. Now, the important thing to note as well with the Shen Jarvan is that this isn't like the straight shot anti-aggro variant of the Demacia Ionia, right? There's 2 Spirits Refuge, but no Tasty Fey Folk. It still includes the Bright Steel formation, so HowToDie's almost the entire lineup is looking to just drag things out to the very, very late game. And this might force Aikado to try to play at an accelerated pace that he might not be comfortable with, or the deck just isn't giving him the cards he needs to fulfill that game plan.
Exactly. And I mean, Shen Jarvan, normally a bit of a risky pickup because decks that control the board run out of resources against, right? Decks like, for example, these Noxus control decks like TF Swain and, you know, Ezreal Draven, and a lot of players are bringing both. We can see, for example, HowToDie is bringing both, but because, of course, Aikado has the Lulu deck, it's going to be a bit of a vulnerability there.
This matchup was one that we kind of anticipated the last time we casted together, is Shen Jarvan's slight edge against Nami, because you have the single combat, you have tons of challengers, you've got the sharp sights. I'm really liking this game 1 so far for HowToDie.
Yep, exactly. When it comes to Zoe Nami, if you're looking for a way to beat that deck, it comes down to one of 2 things. Either aggro them down super fast, or have reliable ways of killing their tools that are prepared to basically overkill them. You need stuff like Monster Harpoon, stuff like Concerted Strike. Big single combat targets will do it, but you need to deal a lot of damage to kill through these because they have so many ways to keep their units alive.
And early game like this, Nami Zoe is just floating a ton of mana, and it gives, you know, Shen Jarvan a ton of mana in response, and just draw cards and kick back and relax. This Nami Zoe is very explosive, but the early mid-game turns, they aren't putting on a lot of pressure. This gives you plenty of time to not only think about the matchup, but construct your game plan based on what the deck is offering you here in the early turns. Shen on 4 now with Young Witch and River Shaper means that the value engine is almost complete. What are you hoping for here, Swim? Screeching Dragon to top this off?
Yeah, Screeching Dragon would be nice. At this point, you're happy to just start banking into spell mana and start trying to own the board. And it's going to come down to this River Shaper being able to draw some powerful tools, because we can see in Aikado's hand, there's the Nami, there's the Shelly, and I mean, he's got a lot of spell triggers to just start buffing things like crazy. These Spell Thieves are going to be enabled on Twin Disciplines just as soon as Twin gets forced out, which, I mean, the pressure will probably be there.
And then you've got Spell Thief to Twin Discipline, to boost your Sparklefly, to have it survive a trade, or even Lifesteal for even more. But if Aikado doesn't get the finishing power, if, you know, Shelly and Nami get moved out of the way thanks to a Screeching Dragon or Concerted Strike, and it just becomes a battle of attrition where, sure, the Sparkleflies are keeping you alive, Bright Steel formation is still creeping in HowToDie's list.
Exactly. The one of Bright Steel formation, the classic HowToDie, the one of top end that we are going to be closing games out with. And we've seen a lot of games in, today's tournament come down to this kind of like grind out value situations.
And if it does come down to a top deck war, HowToDie has a massive edge over Zoe Nami, especially if it's like the boards are kind of empty because of things like Scattered Pod. It allows you to search specifically for what you need in that moment. And again, Young Witch, Scattered Pod, potentially giving you more elusive blockers. We're talking a lot about Shen Jarvan's like potential to take over this game, the potential to control the board and stabilize, but we still have to worry about now. Nami leveled up on curve. Things still seem to be going quite well for Aikado's plan.
Yeah, this is a really, really terrifying position to be in. The Nami's leveled on 4. The Shelly has an opportunity to come out here, but you don't even really need it. And these elusives are just going to have buffs over and over and over again. We know that there's an answer to the Nami. We can see the Concerted Strike in hand, and we know that there's not enough of a way to protect it. But right now, because Spell Thief can steal things from the stack, it could have been an option for Concerted Strike. Going for the Shelly instead.
Yeah, no way to defend this, just trying to call it out. Maybe eats the Sunblessed Vigor, and then you respond with the Sharp Sight. I like that HowToDie is just going for this immediately. Giving Shen Jarvan the ability to have so much spell mana available means that they're so confident when they start putting these spells on the stack like this.
So in this situation, Aikado is just going to look for a single Shelly buff probably before the Shelly dies. It's a little bit interesting because if he wants, he can actually re-single here because Spell Thief can take things from the stack before they're resolved. So maybe that's the way he triggers Shelly, Spell Thief potentially, or he's just going for the Guiding Touch. So it will be Spell Thief, but not for any single cleaning up anything. He will get the single, but he has the opportunity to use that later.
And so Shelly goes down, but now we still got a wide board of elusives. Young Witch kind of wants to trade here. Now there is the opportunity for Sharpsight to trade up as well. Getting the Zoe off the board means there won't be a Equinox to stop your Bright Steel formation, potential to stop the Crescent Strike.
Yep, and HowToDie is pretty much just trading away the River Shaper here. He can keep it alive with, of course, Twin Disciplines, but this is a pretty expensive way to deal with this. And we'll notice the Nami is still alive. He still has the elusive that he got off of the Double Trouble.
Dancing Droplet still terrorizing us. But yeah, just changes out the River Shaper there to draw another card. Has Jarvan now on the open attack to pull the Nami.
There it is. Nami could be going down here. The single combat on the side of Aikado is not going to be doing too much. And HowToDie, maybe the reason he didn't want to Twin Disciplines before was playing around the second Spell Thief. Swapping out River Shapers is fine and well, but the thing that would have kept this Nami alive based on this plan is actually a Spell Thief into a Twin Disciplines. By not playing Twin, he's not letting Spell Thief steal that.
Yeah, you can see how the players now are taking these older tried and true decks, and then already HowToDie has adapted his game plan for this list to account for the new meta. Spell Thief number 3 being cashed in. You just get another single combat, and Sharpsight now is part of this equation.
Oh man. So, I mean, the Sharpsight does allow for a potential block. It looks like Aikado's mostly just thinking about how to get the maximum value out of this Nami before she dies, because that's the thing about Nami and Shelly. I mean, even when they go down, as long as you can buff things before they go down, you are winning those exchanges. And, I mean, this Droplet could just end the game in a few turns.
It is enough elusive damage. Fortunately, the Young Witch is alive, but with a Shelly or a second Nami, very easy for this to just get rebuffed back. Oh, Shakedown.
Shakedown's not bad. Being able to take out that Young Witch, potentially with, a unit that's not even elusive, is really, really valuable.
And now going into this next turn, Aikado has to play the Shelly. There is plenty of mana to respond to this on HowToDie's side, but as you talked about, even if Shelly is going to go down to a single combat or Concerted Strike, you just proc it a couple times before it goes down. Right now, Aikado has the setup in play, but needs more fuel.
Yep, he can play the Sparkle Fly here and then just jam off 2 spells, buffing the entire board immediately. He's thinking about playing around Concerted and Single. We can see the Concerted in HowToDie's hand, and it might get forced out just on this Shelly alone, which is so expensive to be able to kill an effective 4-mana unit that's buffing the board while it's dying.
With Golden Aegis in hand as well, HowToDie is trying to get a more dominant board position from here. No pop on the barrier, fortunately, so you still get a free blocker with the Young Witch. Aikado does have a lot of options here. It's just that you can be responsive, you can be proactive with this single combat, but when you look at 7 mana across the table from you when your opponent's on Shen Jarvan like this, it's just too risky.
Very scary.
If you're Aikado, you're like, okay, maybe I don't attack this round. I just want to chill. I want to keep drawing, drag the game out until I get another chance at a wide board setup, maybe another Shelly, another Nami, and just go for a big elusive OTK. But
exactly.
That leads us back to the point of Bright Steel Formation. We're a few rounds off of that. Bright Steel Formation, Scattered Pod, Screeching Dragon, Rally. There's so many ways that this can go wrong for Aikado, but if you worry about the future and you pull the trigger right now, it's still a massive chance that things can go very wrong for you.
Yep, that's exactly right. And I think at that point, Aikado's just thinking if he wants to potentially protect the Shelly. At this point, he's happy if it goes down as long as it's getting off a buff and forcing out something expensive. So if he wants, he can go in for a Sharp Sight here, dragging away something potentially threatening the Shelly just to power through more damage. That buff is going to be so big here. And I mean, if he's not playing around any counter response, he does actually have an opportunity at lethal here. We can see there's nothing in HowToDie's hand. The lethal is just going to go through, and that's just it. That's already the win for Zoe Nami, taking game 1 from Aikado.
He had to go for the win.
Look at how happy he is.
Yes, Aikado recognized, I have to take the big risk here against another Sharp Sight or some other sort of interaction with this, and if they don't have it, they don't have it. That's you know, it's a bit of a meme, right? That's sort of the NA mantra. If they have it, they have it.
If they have it, they have it.
And picking up a win there with Nami Zoe against a deck that has sort of an edge, right? It very clearly was HowToDie's response to the Nami Zoe meta game.
Yeah,
it's got to be a heartbreak there. Now you've got 2 shots with Poppy elusives rally. Oof.
Yeah, and as mentioned, I mean, the Shen Jarvan might be slightly favorable into this, but it's still not going to be too great. I mean, you're going to rely on a lot of early challengers being able to stabilize. Jarvan,
which we actually didn't see there. We only saw, we saw like a decent curve. We saw the Young Witch and the River Shaper, but we didn't see like the straight up level of challenger-based board control, right? It was just more of a lot of forcing Aikado to block.
Exactly. Now, keep in mind, this Ionia Demacia deck is not quite just the full elusives deck. This is Lulu Poppy. It's running an elusive hybrid plan, but it does not rely on elusives to be able to win every single game. A lot of games can actually just be won off of the board presence that Poppy and multiple rallies provide.
And because it hits the board early like this, if HowToDie is feeling the heat and has to start developing and taking big risks to interact with Aikado's board before the rallies start to come down, there's opportunities for Aikado to get those big combat blowouts that Shen Jarvan and decks of this nature just can't come back from.
Oh man, this is so much damage here. This is pretty huge.
Yeah, having the attack token on turn 3, Aikado doesn't care about the challenger for Fleet Feather. Get this free damage in.
Yep. It's pushing 1 less off of this sequence.
Strength and grace, beauty in the play.
So there's Protege. We do have the challenger now. We have the Sharp Sight now. There is Spirit's Refuge in hand, which unfortunately is a bit expensive here. In a previous match with HowToDie, we did see Spirit's Refuge cashed in very early to try to stabilize against Pink Bingo's Pirate aggro, and the low base attack of Laurent Protege means you just don't get the value you want off of these interactions.
Yep. And I mean, we have an opportunity to try to challenge out something valuable, something to kill. The Fleet Feather Tracker is the perfect thing to target here. If Aikado wants to keep it alive, he can use a spell. But I mean, honestly, HowToDie's hand is looking pretty bad here. Just like this clunky mid-range hand, just too many challengers, the double Screeching Dragon, and not enough early control spells. Just drew the first Sharp Sight now.
And now, with that massive turn 3 swing, the tempo's already been gained for Aikado. The damage has been done from this position. Even if HowToDie starts to creep back, all Aikado needs is for one elusive unit to stick with enough buffs. We see the Ghost in hand. It could be just enough to get over the finish line.
Exactly. We're buffing the Young Witch here. Aikado making sure that he's using the level up trigger that he got from Lulu. Could have gone for the one additional attack 2 turns ago, but wanted to make sure his Lulu would guaranteed level tier. He's playing the Ghost. That's going to basically allow the Lulu to start generating the free health pixes. And I mean, a Sharp Sight is going to have to come down to try to threaten the Lulu here. There's no other way.
And here's the play.
Aikado's hand. And the Sharp Sight counter response is just so big here. This Lulu not only doesn't die, but threatens the Protege. And then even just to keep it alive, HowToDie might have to use a Spirit's Refuge, which is just so awkward here to have to use.
The damage that you're healing from the Spirit's Refuge gets immediately offset. You're losing out on the tempo game.
Ooh, that's so big! Aikado
calling out HowToDie
but the Spirit's
again?
Refuge is going to stop that. The Spirit's Refuge swinging this, that's actually so big for HowToDie. I think he might have just won. I mean, right now, Aikado has committed all the resources, and HowToDie is at 4 health. He's out of elusives. The challengers are going to kill the Young Witch, and now Aikado's on top decks.
Aikado managed to take out that first game by having a bold play of saying, I'm going to put it on the stack, I have to force you to have it. But now with Lulu going down, the Young Witch going down, and now Jarvan in play, I mentioned that the damage being done means that Aikado only needs 1 elusive to stick. But now, with Jarvan leveled up in play, that's not going to be possible.
Shadow Assassin is huge, but yeah, between Cataclysms and the single combats, I don't really see a way out of this for Aikado. HowToDie has stabilized, the elusives are off the board, and the level Jarvan is just going to be farming these.
Aikado's still looking pretty calm and collected, realizes we can still take this to a game 3, wanted to just try to high roll there, has the Nopify for the Cataclysm, trying to keep this final win condition in play.
Yep, but the single combat is just going to potentially stop this, waiting for the rally in this case.
Off we go!
As Young Witch into Relentless Pursuit.
Yep, and there's pretty much nothing Aikado can do at this point. I mean, it's just like you said, the boldness. It's kind of the NA way, right? It's just they assume they don't have it, right? Let's not bait ourselves into playing too much around stuff. Let's just shove it in. In this case, though, not working out for him like it did last game.
Yeah, to be fair, we are getting very late into the game, and Aikado probably saw that window of opportunity beginning to close, trying to just get things ended before Brightsteel comes down, before the board gets any worse. It was only a matter of time before Jarvan potentially hit, and once that happened, we were going to be in this situation. So I think if you were to play this matchup 100 times, that ends up being the correct line, is trying to finish it on an all-in sort of play.
Yeah, with Aikado's hand, it was really, really awkward. His hand kind of might have forced him into going in for that, just because, you know, the additional Fleet Feather he didn't need is not really going to be doing much else. And the combat tricks, I mean, if we're not going in for a lethal there, we might not have elusives later anyway.
Yeah, and especially with like no River Shaper in this game, less presence of spells, there's a lot to balance. And it's not just about piloting Shen Jarvan effectively, it's knowing what your position is when you're fighting against it. And Aikado, again, is such a high-level player, has played this matchup a lot when it was very meta a while ago. And of course, the proto-progenitor of this list, the Fiora Shen, a lot of the pro scene collected a lot of matchup knowledge here.
Yeah, Aikado's kind of come out of nowhere. It's sort of taken the world by storm. I mean, he has not been playing this game since the start, and it's just the last couple of months that he's been popping up on people's radars. He top cut, I think, 4 different tournaments in the last 5 weeks alone, which is absolutely ridiculous. But gonna drop a game here to HowToDie. There's just no way to come back from that stabilization when Shen Jarvan is able to survive and wipe your board as Demacia.
I mean, despite the lineups, despite the blowouts here, we kind of knew, I think deep down in our hearts, this was going to go to a game 3. The matches have just been so close up to this point, and now we've got the Gangplank TF control into the elusive deck. This is another list with tons of removal, a lot of swarm on the board early that can run Aikado's list out of resources and just has so much late game, and we said it before that this forces Aikado to play a more reckless, almost aggressive game, trying to call out HowToDie's draw quality. How good was your mulligan?
And I mean, it's again another unfavored matchup for Aikado. I mean, the Lulu Poppy deck does well into a lot of things, but not this deck, not Swain TF, not the Caitlyn Draven deck, which he was forced to ban, and certainly not the Shen Jarvan, although that last game was very close. But I mean, despite HowToDie being a bit of an underdog here, I do think he's overall favored lineup to lineup, and we're about to see how it resolves.
Yep, we've got Parley turn 1 for the Fleet Feather Tracker. Turn 2, we could see a float here from HowToDie. This is a similar cadence to Jarvan Shen, where you want to try to float some mana here in the early game to be more flexible with your removals later on, but decides to just get on the board.
Yeah, what's really, really good for Aikado right now is HowToDie doesn't really have a ton of removal in hand. The Scorched Earth draw there is nice, but the way this matchup is often won as the control player is off of a lot of Death's Hands as well as Ravenous Flocks.
Yeah, so Jagged Butcher was played to set up the Fortune Croaker rather than floating, and again, because no removal in hand, makes a lot of sense to play a more board-centric game. We've got Arachnoid Sentry waiting to go, hoping for a Ravenous Flock here. Aikado with only a Protege can get a nice value trade, but you need something to back this up. You're hoping for Lulu, you're hoping for Poppy. With the threat of the Noxus removal package and the Bilgewater removal package, everything you attack with is realistically only going to get 1 rep.
Yep. And we can see he's thinking about Arachnoid Sentry almost assuredly, making sure he doesn't play an overextend into that hand. And we can see Aikado's hand. So a very, very good long-term resource hand with the double Shadow Assassins going to be drawing more cards. But HowToDie's Make It Rain is going to sweep that. And he even has a TF he could draw too.
Yeah, fortunately, the early units from Aikado's lists are very frail. There's no awkwardness where you need to get Dreadway Deckhand first. And Make It Rain just going to be put down here to scoop up this Shadow Assassin. And does this get the Nopify?
It could also get a Sharp Sight if Aikado wants to push damage here. It's basically the decision he's thinking, which of these he wants to save for later. If he Sharp Sights now, he knows it's pushing damage at the very least. But Nopify, I think, is the better answer because you can't really rely on this getting value later. It's actually close, though.
Yeah, very, very close. There's a lot of strong options for Nopify to hit in this particular matchup. And so this is another big point. We'll see if there's a better target down the road. If Aikado goes for the Sharp Sight, you're getting that damage through and closing out the game, potentially.
One of the nice things about using Nopify here is that you're not playing into a potential Ravenous Flock. And I think that's what Aikado is thinking about right now. He just wants to make sure that if Flocks are in the hand, they're going to be bricked out without, any elusive targets at the very least.
And, if you are really hoping that the Sharp Sight will still result in that 2 damage down the road. And maybe even when it really counts.
All right, we've got another Shadow Assassin here. Aikado looking for more elusives. The Young Witch is actually not bad. 2 health is a bit more survivable. And between the rallies, he can start trying to set up a lethal pretty soon.
If the elusive threats outpace your removal, then suddenly you're starting to take a ton of damage. Again, these lists are relying purely on controlling the board and don't have healing. They don't have a means to come back if things really, really get out of hand. If we look at the hand right now from HowToDie, it actually looks pretty awkward because of no Ravenous Flock to combine with the Arachnoid Sentry. You're kind of just praying that Zap Sprayfin maybe gets you something good. You're going to try to block as much as possible and try to get to these 8 drops. Having 2 in hand means that HowToDie is, you know, lacking options here in the mid game.
Yeah, absolutely. And HowToDie is going to put on a little bit of chip damage, but this is a matchup where Aikado's the aggressor. I don't think he's going to mind that much. And so Aikado's just looking to set up a really, really powerful double rally. And I mean, if he's able to protect it, that will just end the game.
Death's Hand.
Whoa.
Thinking about which target to hit. There's a lot of good ideas here. Young Witch seems to be the play. No quick attack for your challenger, thank you very much. Ravenous Flock would be so strong to swing this board back into HowToDie's favor. At the very least, he's so glad there isn't a Lulu or a Poppy on top of this right now.
And this is so close. Aikado's debating whether he wants to save the Young Witch. Sharpsight's really powerful here and even gives her 3 attack for this round, but he'd be playing it to Flock by doing this. I think he might decide it's a little too risky. His game plan here is to try to brick those cards, and he declines it, which I think I love. I think this had to have been right. It's a little bit awkward and it's such a close call, but I think the way you win this is by bricking out Scorched Earth and Flock, because you've already seen one Make It Rain, and Zap is drawing any of those cards.
Yeah, still no Ravenous Flock, and
that's a power draw though. Because now that the Make It Rain, the second Make It Rain is off the Zap, suddenly this can basically just threaten both of these elusives. One of them is going to be protected from Sharpsight, putting a little bit of damage on, but if it does threaten both of them, then we are losing both. Oh, that's the double threaten.
Ooh, excellent hits here. You would like to maybe see it pop the barrier, but you got to take what you can get. This is the highest priority, is that it hits these elusives, and now Aikado, you know, recognizing I don't have any other threats after these. So now you have to protect one.
And the scary thing is it's really, really uncomfortable to try to rally here too, because even though this Shadow Assassin won't be flockable next turn, this turn it's got a temporary buff, so it's damaged health. Aikado plays into Flock uniquely by rallying.
I was almost expecting the pursuit there. Aikado has been very audacious by calling out HowToDie's hand and saying, I need to be aggressive. I need to look for these edge plays where HowToDie does not have it, over and over and over again. Here in game 3, Aikado no longer has that buffer. Gangplank now entering the scene, a big overwhelm unit and a barrel to beef up more of this removal. Aikado has the rallies, but not the board to make use of them.
Yep, and we see a Whisper Doors. We see another Shadow Assassin, so he's not running out of resources anytime soon, but HowToDie's hand is really, really scary. I mean, if Aikado can't win on this attack, I think he might just be dead next turn. And right now, we see the parlay threaten the Shadow Assassin. Aikado's going to basically have to keep that alive or assume there's no other forms of removal. And we can see there's no removal in HowToDie's hand, but if Aikado uses an attack spike on the remaining Shadow Assassin with Twin Disciplines plus attack, he could try to go for lethal here. The Arachnoid Sentry would be the only counter.
Aikado's been respecting Ravenous Flock this entire game, knows that if I go for Twin Discipline here to protect, I'm still in the same situation of having a damaged, vulnerable unit.
Exactly.
And Arachnoid Sentry, although it doesn't have its, you know, companion of Ravenous Flock to get that true tempo combo, shutting down a rally is just so potent here from this position.
Yeah, the Gangplank's parlay is absolutely huge here. These Shadow Assassins just having their health punished, and Aikado just drawing a few too many rallies. Gangplank takes a level as well, which just secures HowToDie's kill next turn. Aikado has to win the game this turn, but I don't see a way to do it.
Yeah, you have to call out so many things that HowToDie just does not have. When you look at the deck list, you're like, okay, is there a Mirai Greatmother? Is there a Riptide Rex, the Captain Fair, and the Dreadway? Are these all bricks? What is the best case scenario for me?
I think
Aikado
Aikado
thinking
might
through the
go all
line.
in. I think he might just Twin Disciplines for attack and Ghost here, because if he does that, at least he's got a chance, because that's dealing exactly 14 damage if there's no elusive blocker.
HowToDie saying, bring it on.
Yeah, he's just here. He's just beckoning. And yeah, Aikado does realize he has to go for it. It's the only play that could make sense. This deals 14 damage if there's no answer, but the simple Arachnoid Sentry between these attacks will be enough to keep HowToDie alive.
Whispered words, looking for another out, just more units, another parley.
Parlay.
Aikado, feeling confident, likes that first hit connected.
And I think be it. I mean, Aikado is shut out from winning this turn.
Yeah, we've got the parlay to take down the Shadow Assassin if a rally is cashed in. Of course, we've got Arachnoid Sentry on top of that. Gangplank going to be wiping this board next round with his AoE damage, setting up Scorched Earth to further just solidify the board advantage for HowToDie. We could even see something really aggressive like a Dreadway or just Captain Farron. Just play it down, have big Overwhelm, and then you have Decimate to just end the game against Aikado's inability to develop beyond.
Oh, exactly. I mean, Decimate's not even going to be necessary with the health Aikado's at. The big Overwhelm will just end the game next turn, and Aikado's deck is not geared towards surviving anything like that. I mean, HowToDie has Dreadway as an option if he wants to deal basically just as much damage, and Aikado.
And now, even if you don't go for the rally, there's still the Arachnoid Sentry. Like, HowToDie has this locked down. Aikado, unfortunately, did not get the Poppy or the Lulu set up on board to try to snowball this back into his favor. And despite all of this, both competitors are still at 7 Nexus health.
Yeah, it's so close. It's so close. I mean, if the Arachnoid Sentry wasn't there, HowToDie would be at 2 again. And Aikado has to face down this 6-unit board with the Dreadway, and that is going to be it. HowToDie is going to take a game off of Aikado here.
This is honestly a fantastic parting shot for HowToDie.
He's just
Aikado
like
feeling confident and happy at the top of Group B, but HowToDie is still saying, hey, my matchup knowledge, my meta call still had merit here.
Yeah, you can see it on Aikado's face. That's the face of someone who would have liked to have taken the win, but as mentioned, he's signaling to all of us with that big ol' smile that he knows he's advancing anyway.
Yeah, but HowToDie still beautifully played, beautifully piloted, and despite Aikado's like just really, really spicy callouts, was still able to close out those games. You love to see it.
Sorry about that. I had a technical difficulty, but I am back. Honestly, that was an incredible match, and HowToDie being able to take a win must feel so good. So I'm really excited for him, but Aikado still clinched it, going to be in the top 8. So I could not have expected anything else from an incredible match between these two players. That was just really exciting, Swim.
Yeah, I gotta say, I mean, I'm a big fan of all the games we've seen today. Everything is just so close. And I mean, even the Nami Zoe games can be kind of polarizing depending on the draw, but those games are still ending super close. Regardless of whether, you know, the Nami is drawn or not, it's a big power spike. But I mean, you have these players that have these decks that have built-in answers to it. And basically every game, regardless of the hand states, is coming down to the wire.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we're going to pull up the standings and just show everybody where we're at, having 10 matches covered for today. But regardless of the score lines that you are seeing for all of these players, all of these matches have been incredibly close. So taking a look at what's going on in Group A and B, we have 2 more matches to cover today that are going to decide it all, who is moving forward. Obviously, What Am I and Aikado have clinched their spots in the top 8, which they will be competing in on Saturday. But it's pretty up in the air when it comes down to the rest of the groups. I mean, Skarzig, what are kind of your thoughts based on where everybody's sitting right now?
I mean, Real Key almost took that game off of What Am I, right? He was looking to set Group A on fire and send it to some completely cursed tie-break shenanigan, but we still got another game coming out of that group, and all the competitors here are, again, top 16. This is worlds. This is world-class talent, so it doesn't even matter. We know the games are going to be just out of this world, and I'm also so glad that we're having so many new decks that were tested from the new drop of the meta from Vandal City and decks that are on the very cutting edge, sometimes even less than a week old, breaking into the competitive scene, competing against decks from several metas ago. We're seeing Shen, we're seeing tons of Swain. I'm loving the diversity here.
Yeah, no, I absolutely couldn't agree more, Skarzik. This is going to be an event, an Legends of Runeterra event, and all Legends of Runeterra events. 3 days, there's 2 more days of this. We're going to be, you know, just having a crazy amount of games to go through. I'm so excited.
Now, I mean, we still have more round robins tomorrow, so I think anything can really happen at this point, but we're going to go to a short break. When we come back, it's the 2 matches to end the day to decide it all.